She was called a mail-order bride, but the millionaire rancher claimed her as mine before she even left town. Grayridge was not important. It was a place people left, not a place they chose. Alara Vance stood near the old transport office, holding a thin data slate in both hands. The screen showed a single sentence, repeated in several languages: relocation contract approved. Departure in 72 hours. She read it again, even though she already knew every word. Around her, people whispered. She really signed up. Mail-order bride program, can you believe it? Guess she didn't have a better option. Alara did not turn around. She had learned long ago that listening to whispers only made them louder in her mind. Instead, she looked at the sky. The air was thin and the clouds moved slowly, like they were tired too. She was 26 years old. She had worked repair docks, supply offices, and transit hubs since she was 16. She knew how to count cargo by sight and how to fix a broken inventory system with half the tools missing. None of that mattered in Grayridge. Here, there were no futures left. The relocation program was run by the Interstellar Settlement Authority, controlled mostly by non-human interests. Officially, it helped move people to underdeveloped human worlds. Unofficially, everyone knew the truth. Women signed up. Men chose from lists. The galaxy laughed and called it progress. Alara hated the name they gave it. She hated that people used it when they looked at her. But the program offered one thing Grayridge never could: a way out. 3 star systems away, Calder Rook stood on open land that stretched farther than most people could see. His ranch was not made of fences and barns like old Earth farms. It was a living system, fields of engineered grass that grew tall and strong, herds of massive grazing beasts that had once been considered impossible to tame, and water channels that adjusted themselves to the land. Calder stood with his hands behind his back, watching the horizon. He was tall, broad, and quiet. His hair was already streaked with gray, though he was not old. He wore simple clothes, practical and worn, not the kind someone expected from one of the wealthiest humans in frontier space. Behind him, a projection screen floated in the air. A list of names scrolled slowly. Calder did not look at most of them. He had not joined the relocation program because he wanted a wife chosen for him. He joined because the system was broken, and broken systems could sometimes be bent. When Alara Vance's profile appeared, Calder paused, not because of her picture. He barely glanced at it. He looked at the details others ignored: supply chain experience, colony logistics certification expired, emergency coordination under resource failure. Calder nodded once. "That'll do," he said. The system asked for confirmation. He pressed yes. The trouble started before Alara even left Grayridge. She was at her small rented room, packing the few things she owned, when her slate buzzed with an urgent signal. The message did not come from the transport office. It came from a corporate legal node. Notice of contract review, transfer request pending. Alara felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. She opened the message. Legal language filled the screen, thick and sharp. A trade consortium had filed a request to assume control of her relocation contract. According to interstellar law, such contracts were considered assets once approved. Assets could be transferred. "You have got to be kidding me," Alara whispered. She rushed back to the transport office. The building was old, its lights flickering. A clerk sat behind the counter, more machine than human, eyes glowing softly. "My contract," Alara said. "Someone is trying to take it." The clerk checked the system. "Yes," it said calmly. "Your assignment is under review. Please wait for a decision." "Wait," Alara's voice shook. "They can just take it." "The contract allows reassignment," the clerk replied. "You agreed to the terms." Alara clenched her hands. She remembered signing. The screen had been long, the warning small. She had thought the worst part was the name. She was wrong. The decision did not take long. Within hours, armed security drones appeared near the transport office. Not human models. corporatalian designs sharp and cold. People in Greyridge watched from a distance. No one stepped forward. Alara stood alone. Then the air changed. A private channel opened on every public screen in town. A man's voice came through, calm, steady. "This is Calder Rook," the voice said. "Regarding relocation contract V7741. The clerk's system froze. The drones paused. "I have already claimed responsibility for this contract," Calder continued. "Any transfer attempt violates human settlement law." An alien legal representative appeared on the screen, its shape flickering. "The individual is an asset," it said. "Your claim does not override." "She's under my protection," Calder said. "That makes her mine." The word echoed through the office. "Mine," people gasped. Alara's heart pounded. She had never met this man, had never spoken to him, and yet his voice cut through the room like a wall. "You claim ownership?" the alien asked. "I claim responsibility," Calder replied. "Under human law, those are not the same." Silence followed. Human law was old, messy, and hard to translate. It was full of strange ideas aliens never liked: duty, care, choice. After several long seconds, the drones powered down. "The transfer request is denied," the alien said stiffly. "For now." The screen went dark. Alara sat on the edge of her bed later that night, staring at the ceiling. Mine. The word stayed with her. She did not feel owned. She felt shielded. That confused her more than fear ever had. Her slate buzzed again. This time the message was simple. "You are safe. You leave as planned." See Rook Alara read it twice. Then she let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Outside Greyridge, ships continued to pass overhead, uncaring. Inside the town, something had shifted. People still whispered, but their voices sounded unsure now. Because for the first time, the galaxy had tried to take a human like property. And another human had stood up and said no. Not with weapons, not with threats, with law, with responsibility. And Alara Vance, once invisible, was now at the center of something much larger than herself. She did not know what waited for her beyond the stars. But she knew one thing. She was no longer just a name on a list. The transport ship shook as it pierced the thin atmosphere of Calder Rook's planet. Outside the viewport, the sky glowed in pale shades of blue and orange, with clouds drifting lazily over fields that stretched farther than the eye could see. It was unlike anything Alara had ever seen, open, alive, and enormous. She gripped the edge of her seat, not out of fear, but from a strange sense of wonder. For the first time, leaving Greyridge felt like stepping into possibility instead of leaving behind hopelessness. Beside her, the transport's co-pilot, a young man named Soren, tried to make conversation. "You're lucky," he said. "Most people sent here end up on the smaller colonies. Few actually get to see a ranch like Calder Rook's." Alara nodded, not trusting her voice yet. She had read about Calder in news archives while preparing for the journey. The man was legendary in the human frontier, a recluse who turned barren land into a thriving habitat for humans and animals alike. But the details were hazy. Most stories focused on his wealth or eccentricity. None explained how he did it. The ship's landing sequence began. The engines hummed and the floor beneath them vibrated. Outside, vast expanses of grass shimmered like a green ocean, dotted with grazing herds that were massive beyond belief. Their fur was sleek, metallic in the sunlight, and their horns curved into spirals unlike any earth creature. Streams of water glinted between patches of grass, and above it all, huge, triangular solar arrays tilted toward the sun, supplying energy without marring the landscape. Alara blinked. She had studied environmental systems, supply chains, and resource management, but nothing she had imagined prepared her for this. The transport docked at a massive platform. The ramp descended, and Calder Rook himself stepped forward. He was taller than she expected, with a broad chest, strong arms, and eyes that looked like they had seen centuries of human struggle. But there was no arrogance in his stance. Instead, A calm certainty surrounded him, as if every inch of this land answered to his command. "Miss Vance," his voice was firm but not harsh. Alara straightened. "Yes, I'm Alara. I know." He offered a hand, and though she hesitated, she shook it. His grip was strong, steady, grounding. "You were expecting someone else?" Calder asked, as if reading her thoughts. She shook her head. "No, just this is bigger than I imagined." He nodded, not offering reassurance, only letting the truth of the land speak for itself. Then he gestured for her to follow. The ranch was a marvel. Buildings were scattered but functional, designed for humans, animals, and machinery to coexist seamlessly. Drones hovered quietly overhead, inspecting crops and monitoring the herds. Water canals adjusted themselves depending on rainfall. Even the wind seemed to move in patterns controlled by the design of the terrain. "This is incredible," Alara whispered. Calder smiled faintly. "It works because we follow the land, not fight it. Humans can adapt faster than machines, faster than rules. That's our strength." Alara listened, the words sinking in. Here, humans were not just surviving. They were creating a system that could feed thousands, maybe millions. They arrived at her quarters, a small but comfortable room at the edge of the main compound. Calder handed her a data slate. "This will give you access to the ranch's systems. It's extensive. You'll need time to learn it, but I believe you can." Alara's eyes widened. "All of it?" "Yes," he said simply. "I don't expect perfection, I expect effort, and humans don't fail when they try." She felt a thrill. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her as if she mattered. Not her appearance, not her contract, her mind. The next morning, Calder took her on a tour of the ranch. They moved through vast fields, stopping at water management stations, livestock enclosures, and automated feeding zones. Every system seemed impossible yet functional, blending natural and technological processes in ways that amazed Alara. "You built all this?" she asked. "Not all," Calder admitted. "I had help, but humans built it, maintained it, and adapt it daily. That's why it works. Machines can fail, systems can break, humans respond." Alara began to understand. This was more than a ranch, it was a microcosm of human potential. The creatures, the land, the technology, and the people all worked together, but the true strength came from the humans themselves. Over the next few days, she learned her role. Calder did not treat her like a subordinate or a property. Instead, he gave her responsibilities, monitoring supply lines, coordinating livestock movement, and managing incoming cargo from nearby colonies. Each task tested her knowledge, creativity, and patience. She made mistakes, of course. She misread a water gauge one morning, causing a small irrigation channel to overflow. A herd wandered close to the fence edge. Calder noticed, but he didn't scold her. He guided her through the problem, letting her correct it herself. "You'll remember this next time," he said simply. "Humans learn faster when they fix their own mistakes." Alara realized something else. She enjoyed it. The long days, the mental challenges, the feeling of making a difference. It was intoxicating. For the first time in years, she felt capable. One afternoon, a transport ship arrived with supplies. Alara coordinated the unloading while Calder oversaw the herds. She noticed how he observed everything with a quiet intensity, yet trusted her to act without interference. A few curious ranch hands approached her, whispering questions about Grayridge and the relocation program. Alara answered, careful but honest. She realized many of them had similar pasts, people underestimated or ignored, now thriving because someone gave them trust. "Why do you think he picked me?" she asked one of the workers during a break. The worker shrugged. "He doesn't pick because of who you are. He picks because he knows humans can do what machines cannot, and he probably saw something in you you didn't even know you had." Alara felt her cheeks heat. It was the first time someone suggested she had value beyond what she could trade. That evening, Calder invited her to the observation deck. The sun was setting, painting the sky with streaks of purple and gold. Look at it, he said, gesturing at the ranch. Every system, every animal, every canal, it's all connected. Humans made it possible. Machines, aliens, governments, they try to control it. But humans, we adapt, we solve, we endure. Alara nodded, feeling a deep sense of belonging. She was still a newcomer, still learning, but she was part of something larger. And one day, Calder added, you'll run things while I'm busy elsewhere. You're already proving that you can. The words surprised her. Me, run it. Yes, he said. Humans often underestimate themselves. That's their greatest mistake. For the first time, Alara allowed herself to hope. She could leave Greyridge, yes, but more importantly, she could contribute, make a mark, and be valued for her mind, not her contract. The next morning, trouble arrived, but not as she expected. A small scouting drone from the same consortium that tried to claim her contract hovered near the ranch perimeter. Its sensors scanned the land, its presence subtle but unmistakable. Alara reported it immediately, using the system she was learning to monitor. Calder approached her. See that? He asked. They think humans can be owned. They don't understand we claim responsibility for each other, not property. Watch and learn. Together, they tracked the drone. Calder allowed her to make decisions on how to counter its surveillance. She suggested rerouting the drone with signal interference that would not damage it but make it record false terrain data. The drone left, harmless but frustrated. Alara felt pride and relief. She had done it, not Calder, not the ranch she. Calder watched her quietly, his expression unreadable. Then he said, you did well. Humans can do what others cannot see. That is why we survive. Alara realized that the word mine, spoken in Greyridge, had never meant ownership. It had meant protection, guidance, faith in her ability. As night fell, Alara sat on the edge of her quarters, looking out at the ranch under the twin moons. The herds grazed, water channels glimmered, and distant lights marked the homes of other workers. The world felt vast, alive, and human-made. She smiled. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like a list, a contract, or a placeholder. She felt like a human being with purpose. The galaxy might have mocked her once as a mail-order bride. But here, on this frontier ranch, she understood the truth. Humans were never meant to be owned. They were meant to build, protect, and endure. And for the first time, she believed that she could do both. Days passed on Calder Rook's ranch like nothing Alara had ever known. The sun rose early over the vast fields, painting the land in gold and green, and set late, leaving the sky glowing with streaks of purple and silver. Every morning the ranch was alive with sounds, the low hum of drones, the soft footsteps of workers, the distant calls of massive grazing creatures. Alara moved through the routines with growing confidence. She monitored water levels, checked feed schedules, and coordinated supply deliveries to nearby colonies. Every day, she learned something new. Every day, she saw the subtle ways Calder's system worked, and the ways humans could make it stronger. Yet in the background, a shadow loomed. A message arrived via the ranch's encrypted network. The consortium that had tried to claim her contract in Greyridge had not forgotten her. Their communication was formal, cold, and threatening. Notice of contract reevaluation. They're back, she whispered. Calder nodded, calm as always. Yes, they think humans are assets. They do not understand us. That will be their mistake. Alara looked at him, uncertain. They could stop me from staying here, stop us from running the ranch. They could try, Calder said, but humans solve problems differently. We adapt. We act where others fail. The next day, a team of corporate auditors arrived in sleek silver ships. Their presence was imposing. Unlike the ranch workers, they moved stiffly, observing, measuring, and taking notes. They spoke with authority, their tone cold and precise. Alara watched from the command center as they walked through the fields. Their scanners beeped at everything: water channels, drone positions, livestock health. They were here to assess, control, and perhaps claim that the ranch was too valuable for Calder alone. Let me handle this, Calder said. But Alara surprised herself. "I want to try," she said. "I know the systems, I know the land, I can prove they can't take control." Calder studied her. For the first time, he allowed a small smile. "Very well, show them what humans can do." Alara moved quickly. She coordinated the ranch systems to operate at peak efficiency, ensuring every resource was optimized. Drones moved in patterns that made surveillance difficult for outsiders. Livestock were guided carefully to avoid stress, keeping data logs clean. Supply chains were documented in ways that highlighted human adaptability. When the auditors tried to interfere, Alara redirected their attention without confrontation. If they attempted to isolate a herd or control water flow, she countered with adjustments that maintained balance. It was a dance, subtle and precise. One auditor, a tall alien with iridescent skin, finally spoke. "Your methods are unusual. Human processes are not usually this responsive. Are you confident in these results?" Alara met the alien's gaze. "I trust humans to handle what machines cannot. We notice, adapt, and respond faster than any algorithm. We are not perfect, but we survive." The alien paused, processing her words. Calder's nod from the background gave her strength. Over the next few days, Alara continued her work, showing ingenuity at every turn. She fixed a leak in a water reservoir using a temporary solution that saved weeks of downtime. She devised a new route for supply vehicles that cut travel time in half. She even created a plan to guide herds through the fields that minimize stress on the animals while maximizing grazing efficiency. The auditors grew frustrated. Their protocols were rigid. They could not account for the flexibility humans displayed. Every plan they proposed was countered by Alara's adjustments. Every command they gave was anticipated by human observation and adaptability. One evening during a brief break, Calder approached her. "You are learning faster than I expected," he said. "Humans often underestimate themselves. You see patterns others miss. That is why we survive on the frontier." Alara smiled, feeling pride swell in her chest. I think I finally understand. It's not just about following rules, it's about knowing when to bend them, when to act." "Exactly," Calder said. "Machines cannot decide. Aliens cannot feel the land, the herd, or the people. Humans do. That is our edge." The auditors attempted one final tactic. They tried to issue a formal transfer order, claiming that Calder's control over the ranch violated corporate regulations. This time, they brought legal specialists and threats of sanctions. Alara received the order and read it carefully. She analyzed it, cross-referencing the human legal codes Calder had taught her. After hours of study, she drafted a response. It was simple, concise, and undeniable. Calder Rook was not claiming ownership of her. He was claiming responsibility. Under human law, responsibility meant protection, not possession. By taking responsibility, he ensured her safety and the stability of the ranch. She sent the response through the proper channels. The auditors were stunned. Human law did not translate easily across species. Their protocols assumed ownership equaled control. Responsibility equaled duty. Humans had confused them. Calder watched quietly as Alara sent the message. "You see," he said, "sometimes the simplest truths are the hardest for others to understand. And humans, when we understand, we can change the game." The auditors left within a week, their reports inconclusive and their influence weakened. Alara had done what Calder had claimed she could do. She had proven that human adaptability and ingenuity could withstand scrutiny, control, and even threat. After they left, the ranch returned to its rhythm, but something had shifted. The workers looked at Alara with newfound respect. Even Calder seemed a little different, not because he doubted her before, but because now she had stepped fully into her role. "You've earned your place here," Calder said quietly one evening. "Not because of the contract, not because of me, because of what you can do, because of what humans can do." Alara felt warmth in her chest. This was the first time she had felt ownership over her life, not in the legal sense but in the human sense. She was part of the ranch. She was part of the land. She belonged. The next challenge came unexpectedly. Reports arrived from neighboring colonies, supply shortages. Crops had failed in nearby settlements. Livestock herds had been lost due to disease. Humans across the frontier were struggling. Alara realized the potential. "We can help," she said to Calder. "We have the systems, we have the resources, we can send aid." Calder nodded. "Then do it. Show the galaxy that humans care for humans." For the first time, Alara coordinated not just the ranch but external colonies. She organized transport ships, allocated resources, and communicated with leaders who had never met her. It was complex, overwhelming, and exhausting, but humans thrived in complexity. Ships departed with food, medicine, and equipment. Streams of communication opened between colonies. Problems that seemed insurmountable were solved by coordination, innovation, and trust. The word spread across human space. Greyridge's mail-order bride had become a force. Not because she was assigned, not because she was chosen, but because she acted. One night, after a long day of organizing shipments, Alara stood beside Calder on the observation deck. The twin moons reflected off the water channels and the herds grazed peacefully under the stars. "They called me property once," she said softly. "I thought that's all I would ever be." Calder placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were never property, you were human. And humans are never property. We are builders, protectors, and problem solvers. That is why we endure. That is why we thrive." Alara looked out at the land, the ranch, and the people she had helped protect. She understood now. The galaxy could call her anything. But she knew her value. It was not in a name, a list, or a contract. It was in her mind, her heart, her actions. The frontier was harsh. It tested humans constantly. But humans had a secret strength, the ability to rise when impossible odds stood in the way. And Alara Vance had risen. In the distance, a small flicker of light appeared, not dangerous, not threatening, but another sign that the galaxy was watching. Alara did not fear it. She had learned the greatest truth of all. Humans could protect themselves, their people, and their future, even when others doubted them. And as long as humans stood together, adapted, and acted, no force in the galaxy could claim them. Alara smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and freedom at the same time. The frontier had challenges, yes, but humans had courage. Humans had ingenuity, and humans would endure. She was ready. The morning sky over Calder Rook's ranch glowed pink and gold, a deceptive calm before the storm. Alara stood at the edge of the observation deck, her data slate alive with alerts. Ships, hundreds of them, small and fast, were moving toward the colony from a neighboring star system. Not human. The same consortium that had tried to claim her contract was returning, this time in force. Calder appeared behind her. His expression was calm but sharp, like a hawk watching from above. "They're testing us," he said. "They think they can intimidate humans with numbers and technology. We'll show them something they cannot calculate." Alara nodded. Her pulse quickened, not with fear but anticipation. She had spent weeks learning the ranch, the systems, the people. Now was the moment to put it all together. Inside the control room, Alara coordinated every system. Drone patrols were rerouted to create false readings. Livestock moved in organized patterns that disguised the most critical herds. Water channels and storage tanks were recalibrated to avoid stress or disruption. Workers watched her, trusting her decisions. For the first time, she felt the full weight of command and the full measure of responsibility. Calder did not interfere. He stood to the side, letting her lead. "Humans think, adapt, and act," he said. "Show them why." Alara sent signals to the ranch's defensive drones. Not weapons, but deterrents. Light beams, sound pulses, and magnetic disruptions that forced the incoming ships to slow down without damage. Every move was calculated. Humans did not rely solely on force, they relied on adaptability. By midday, the consortium ships were close enough to be seen from the ground. Metallic hulls gleamed in the sunlight. Sensors picked up their communications, cold, precise, and threatening. Alara remained calm. "We can't let them intimidate us," she said to the team. "They think humans are predictable. They're wrong." She split the workers into teams. Some monitored logistics, rerouting supply ships. Others managed livestock movement. A few kept the ranch systems running smoothly. Every team had a clear role, every action synchronized with the rest. The consortium launched their first probe, an unmanned ship scanning the ranch for weaknesses. Alara anticipated it. She activated a series of signal scramblers and motion diversions. The probe reported anomalies and left confused. Calder's eyes glimmered. Humans can do what machines cannot see. They never learn that until it's too late. As the day progressed, Alara realized something important. This was more than a defense. This was a demonstration of human ingenuity. The consortium assumed they could overpower humans with technology, but humans did not act in simple patterns. They improvised, they observed, they adapted. Alara moved quickly, coordinating small drones to guide herds into patterns that masked critical zones. Water and energy systems were rerouted to appear normal, even as they secretly supplied strategic points. Supply ships moved along unpredictable routes, impossible for the enemy to anticipate. By evening, the consortium's fleet had slowed, unsure how to proceed. Every calculation they made was met with human creativity. They could not predict the next move because humans did not act like machines. That night, Alara reviewed the day's events with Calder. The ranch was quiet now, the herds grazing peacefully under the twin moons. "You were brilliant today," Calder said. "Not because you followed instructions, but because you saw patterns others cannot." Alara shook her head. "I only did what humans do naturally: adapt, solve, survive. I just had to trust it." "That is the human edge," Calder said. "Machines follow commands, aliens follow logic. Humans follow instinct, and we improve it with thought. That is why we endure where others fail." Alara smiled. For the first time, she fully understood Calder's words. Humans were not weak because they were small or slow. They were strong because they could act where others could not. The next morning, the consortium escalated. They sent a larger fleet, armed with automated systems designed to disable the ranch's infrastructure. Alara met with her team early, planning the defense. "We don't fight like they do," she said. "We don't match fire with fire. We outthink, outmove, and outlast." Teams worked together, adjusting systems in real time. Supply routes shifted constantly. Drones created illusions of livestock where none existed. Water and energy systems rerouted dynamically. Even the terrain itself was used. Hills, canals, and foliage hid critical infrastructure from sensors. The consortium launched their first assault. Mechanical devices descended to interfere with power lines and irrigation channels. Alara anticipated it. Drones intercepted the devices, guiding them harmlessly into empty fields. Workers cheered silently, impressed. Humans had not only survived, they had adapted. By midday, the consortium realized brute force would not succeed. They attempted to negotiate. A single ship hovered above the ranch, sending a communication. "Calder Rook," the message said. "Human systems are impressive, but you cannot withstand full intervention. Surrender control." Alara took the slate. She hesitated for only a moment before responding. "Human systems are built by humans for humans," she typed. "We protect what we build. We adapt faster than any threat. You may observe, but you cannot own. We are not assets. We are humans. We survive and we endure. We will not surrender." The response was sent. Silence followed. Calder placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have learned well," he said. "Humans are never predictable. That is why we are strong." Over the next hours, the consortium tried more aggressive measures. Automated drones attempted to sabotage irrigation. Sensor grids tried to map the ranch to find vulnerabilities. Alara and her team responded with precision. They rerouted resources, created false readings, and moved livestock strategically. Every move was human ingenuity in action. Every action frustrated the consortium. By evening, the fleet began to withdraw. The ranch had held. The humans had proven something important. Numbers and technology alone cannot overcome human adaptability and teamwork. Alara felt exhausted but exhilarated. She had seen humans act not just to survive, but to protect, innovate, and lead. Calder looked at her with pride. Today, you did more than defend a ranch. You showed the galaxy what humans can do, and that is something they cannot control. Alara realized he was right. It was no longer just about survival. It was about demonstrating human strength in a universe that often underestimated them. That night, as the twin moons shone over the ranch, Alara walked the observation deck alone. She looked at the fields, the water channels, the herds grazing peacefully. She thought about Greyridge, about the whispers and doubts, and about the humans who had trusted her. The word mine, spoken in her past, no longer felt like ownership. It was responsibility, duty, trust. Calder had claimed responsibility for her not as property, but as a human standing for another human. And now she understood. She had claimed responsibility too, not for Calder, not for the ranch, but for the people, systems, and lives she had protected. The frontier was harsh. Challenges would continue. Threats would return. But humans had a secret strength. They adapted, learned, and acted where others failed. Alara smiled, her heart steady. She was not just surviving, she was leading, and the galaxy was watching. As the night deepened, a distant light flickered on the horizon. Not a threat, not yet, but a reminder. The galaxy had underestimated humans before. It would not make the same mistake again. Alara looked at the stars, feeling a quiet determination. The frontier was human now. The ranch, the people, and the systems, they were all part of a larger human story. And humans did not give up. Humans endured. Humans adapted. And humans, Alara realized, would always find a way. The morning on Calder Rook's ranch was quiet, almost serene. The sun rose over endless fields, grazing herds and shimmering water channels. But Alara knew the calm was temporary. The galaxy was still watching. The consortium that had tried to claim her contract and challenge the ranch's independence had retreated, but they had not forgotten. Their fleets still patrolled the outer systems, testing human colonies, observing their movements, and seeking weaknesses. Alara stood at the observation deck, data slate in hand. She studied incoming messages, analyzing signals and patterns. She did not feel fear. She felt purpose. She had led the defense of the ranch, protected her people, and proven that humans were not easily controlled. Calder joined her, his silhouette outlined by the rising sun. "They'll be back," he said. "Humans always face challenges, but today you will lead not just a ranch, but a network, a human network. The galaxy must understand we are not assets. We are humans." Alara nodded. She had learned from Calder, but she had also learned from herself. Humans could think faster than machines, adapt faster than algorithms, and endure longer than any obstacle. Her first step was communication. She contacted nearby colonies, establishing secure links to share resources, information, and strategies. Crop yields, livestock numbers, and water availability were exchanged, creating a human network that was flexible and self-sufficient. "Humans don't just survive alone," she told Calder. "We thrive together, that is our strength." Calder smiled faintly. "Exactly, and today the galaxy will see it." Ships began arriving from nearby colonies, carrying supplies, workers, and intelligence. Alara coordinated their arrival, ensuring that every resource was used efficiently. She organized transportation routes that avoided congestion, created buffer zones to protect livestock, and even adjusted water channels to ensure maximum crop growth. Every move was precise, deliberate, and human. By midday, the consortium detected the network. Their scouts were confused. What they expected to be isolated, uncoordinated settlements were now a single, resilient system. Humans were not predictable. Humans were adaptable. Humans were working together. An alien representative sent a formal message. Calder Rook, Miss Vance, your actions are impressive but insufficient. Surrender control of all operations immediately. Alara read the message aloud to her team. They think numbers and orders can intimidate humans, she said. They are wrong. Let's show them what humans can do. The team responded with quiet determination. They implemented contingency plans that Alara had prepared in advance. Supply ships rerouted, energy grids optimized, and drones deployed to intercept observation probes. Humans were not fighting with weapons. They were solving problems. They were protecting life. By evening, the consortium escalated. A fleet of small, fast ships approached the colonies, intending to disable critical infrastructure. Alara coordinated the defense with precision. She used terrain, natural barriers, and human ingenuity to neutralize threats without direct confrontation. Ships attempting to interfere with energy grids were redirected using magnetic pulses. Probes trying to map the network were tricked with false signals. Supplies moved faster than the enemy could track, keeping the colonies fed and stable. The alien fleet tried everything it knew. Every strategy failed. Every calculation was anticipated by human creativity. Calder observed silently. Humans do not fight like machines. Humans survive like humans. That is why we endure. Alara smiled. She felt the truth of his words in every movement, every decision, every life she protected. The final test came during the night. A series of coordinated attacks targeted multiple colonies at once. The consortium hoped to overwhelm the system, believing humans could not respond to simultaneous threats. Alara remained calm. She divided responsibilities among the colonies, delegating leadership to those she trusted. She monitored every response, providing guidance and adjusting plans as needed. Humans acted independently yet together, their creativity and adaptability multiplying their effectiveness. By dawn, the attacks had been neutralized. No lives were lost, no systems destroyed. Humans had not just survived, they had succeeded. Calder approached her as the sun rose. "You have done more than defend a ranch," he said. "You have defended humanity's right to exist, to adapt, to be free. That is why they cannot control us." Alara looked at the horizon. The colonies were alive, the network intact, and humans standing stronger than ever. Word spread across the frontier. Humans were no longer seen as weak, controllable, or divided. They were coordinated, intelligent, and resilient. Colonies began forming networks of their own, inspired by Alara's leadership. Alara realized something powerful. It was not about contracts, titles, or even survival. It was about responsibility and choice. Humans were strongest when they acted together, protecting each other and their systems. Calder's words, "She's mine to protect," were not about ownership. They were about trust, responsibility, and the human bond. And now Alara understood. She had inherited that trust. She had chosen to act, not because she had to, but because she could. Humans thrived because they cared, adapted, and acted when others did not. The consortium, finally defeated in its attempts to control the colonies, withdrew from human space. Their fleets receded, their messages ceased. They had underestimated humans, and the cost of miscalculation was clear. Alara walked through the ranch that morning. Workers greeted her with respect, not fear. The herds grazed peacefully. Water channels flowed smoothly. Drones hovered quietly, observing and reporting but never interfering. Humans were in control, not through dominance but through ingenuity and care. Calder joined her on the observation deck. "They thought humans could be owned," he said. "They were wrong." "They still think they understand us," Alara replied. But humans are more than they can calculate. We adapt, we endure, we protect each other. And we thrive, Calder added. Alara's role evolved. She was no longer the newcomer. She was a leader not by title but by action. Colonies across the frontier followed the system she had built. Humans were connecting, cooperating, and proving the galaxy wrong. One evening, as she watched the twin moons rise over the ranch, she thought about Greyridge, about the whispers and judgments that had followed her for years. She smiled. She was no longer just a name on a list. No one could reduce her to a contract. She was a human who had acted, learned, and led. She was part of a network that could survive anything. The word mine echoed in her mind not as ownership, but as trust, protection, and responsibility. Calder's claim had been the beginning, not the end. She had claimed her own path, proving that humans were never property. They were creators, defenders, and innovators. Months later, the frontier thrived. The ranch remained the heart of the human network. Colonies communicated freely, shared resources, and faced challenges together. Humans had proved that they were more than numbers, contracts, or speculation. They were strong, adaptable, and unstoppable. Alara stood on the observation deck once more, watching a transport ship arrive from a distant colony. Children ran through fields, workers coordinated tasks, and the herds grazed without worry. Calder approached her. "Do you understand now?" he asked. Alara nodded. "Yes. Humans are not meant to be owned. We are meant to act, to protect, to endure. That is our power," Calder smiled. "And now the galaxy knows it too." Alara looked at the stars. The frontier was vast, full of unknowns, and challenges would always return. But humans were ready. Humans had courage, ingenuity, and heart. Humans had each other. And for the first time, Alara felt completely at home. Not in a town, not in a contract, not even in a ranch, but in humanity itself. The galaxy would remember the name Alara Vance, not as a mail-order bride, but as a human who acted, led, and proved that humans were unstoppable. The consortium learned a lesson no fleet could teach. Humans could not be owned, controlled, or underestimated. They could endure. They could adapt, they could thrive, and they would. Alara stood on the observation deck, twin moons reflecting in her eyes, and whispered quietly, "We are human, we are free, and we are unstoppable."